The whisper, it was supposed to be a normal evening. The sun had already dipped behind the horizon, and the streets of Los Angeles were glowing with soft yellow lights. Keanu Reeves, wearing his usual black hoodie and jeans, had decided to take a quiet walk and grab a slice of pizza from a small, family-run place he liked just a few blocks from his home. He liked it there. No one bothered him. The owners treated him like a regular, not a movie star. And for Keanu, that meant everything. As he stepped inside the pizzeria, the smell of garlic, cheese, and fresh dough welcomed him like an old friend. The bell above the door gave a gentle ring. There were only a few customers inside. A man in a suit eating alone, a young couple sharing a pizza in silence, and two boys, probably around 12 or 13, sitting near the back, sharing a soda, and looking a little out of place. Keanu smiled at the old woman behind the counter. She gave him a nod, already starting to prepare his favorite, a simple slice with mushrooms and green peppers. He walked slowly toward the counter, enjoying the quiet. But just as he passed the table where the two boys sat, he heard it. A whisper, soft, shaky, nervous. "That's him," one boy said to the other. "That's the man from the box." Keanu stopped walking, not because they recognized him as a celebrity. He was used to that, but something about the way the boy said it, "the man from the box." It wasn't excitement or fan energy. It sounded like fear, or maybe confusion. He turned, gently. The two boys froze. One looked like he wanted to hide. The other sat upright, eyes wide and blinking fast. Keanu lowered his hood and gave a small smile. "Hey," he said kindly. "You doing okay?" They didn't speak. The woman behind the counter called out, "Your slice will be ready in a minute, sweetheart." Keanu nodded, but kept his eyes on the boys. Something wasn't right. Their clothes were too thin for the cool night. Their shoes looked worn, and they had a strange look, like they'd been running from something, or maybe someone. He sat down at the empty table next to them. "You said something about a box," Keanu said gently. "What did you mean?" The boy who had whispered turned red. "We're not supposed to talk to strangers." Keanu nodded. "That's smart. But maybe I can help. I'm Keanu." The other boy finally spoke. "We know who you are," the first boy added. "But that's not why we said it." Keanu waited. He didn't push. He just looked at them like someone who truly cared. And after a long pause, the first boy leaned forward. "Last night," he whispered, "we were hiding behind a dumpster near the old train tracks. We sleep there sometimes." Keanu's heart began to ache. "We saw a box, like a wooden box. Someone had left it in the alley. And we were hungry, so we opened it. There was food inside, water, blankets, and a picture." Keanu raised an eyebrow. "A picture?" The boy nodded slowly. "It was a photo of you." Keanu's heart skipped a beat. "What kind of photo?" "You were younger in it, wearing a suit, standing in front of a hospital or something. There was something written on the back of the photo too. It said, 'He will remember.'" "He always does." Keanu sat still. The hum of the pizzeria faded in his ears. "Do you still have the photo?" he asked quietly. The boys shook their heads. "We left the box there, but it's gone now." Keanu leaned back, eyes looking past them for a moment. Something stirred in him, a memory maybe, or shadow of a photo, a hospital, a promise. "Do you remember what hospital it was in the picture?" The boy looked unsure. "St. Mark's." "Maybe we only saw the first part of the sign." Keanu closed his eyes for a moment. That name, Street Mark's, it meant something. The woman behind the counter called again. "Your slice is getting cold, Keanu." He stood up slowly, but instead of walking toward the counter, he turned back to the boys. "Are you safe tonight?" he asked. They shrugged. Keanu took out his wallet and placed some bills on the table. "Get more food. Take it to go if you need." They looked at the money like it was 100 pounds of gold. "And tomorrow," Keanu said, "meet me here. Same time." "Why?" the smaller boy asked. Keanu smiled gently. "Because I think that box was meant for me, and maybe you two were meant to find it." He walked to the counter, picked up his slice, and left the pizzeria with a strange feeling in his chest. He couldn't tell if it was fear, curiosity, or something else. But something had been set in motion. something that felt bigger than just a photo or a memory. As he walked into the night, the two boys stared after him. The smaller one whispered, "Do you think he knows?" The older one looked down at the slice of pizza in front of him and said, softly, "Not yet, but he will." The man who never forgot Keanu didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of his bed, holding an old photo album in his lap. The kind people didn't use much anymore. Real pages, real memories, one photo per sleeve, yellowed edges, silence all around. He flipped through slowly, each page like a whisper from the past. He hadn't looked at these in years, but now something inside him was awake, something that hadn't stirred in a very long time. He stopped on a picture of himself, suit, clean-shaven, standing outside a hospital, not smiling, just standing. He flipped the photo over, nothing written. But he remembered now. The hospital was street, marked single quotes S. It had been 27 years ago, and the memory came flooding back like a wave he couldn't stop. Keanu had once visited street marks when he was barely more than a kid himself. It was during one of the darkest moments of his life. He had just lost a close friend, someone he had grown up with, a quiet boy named Jonas. Jonas had been sick for a long time, and Keanu had promised to be there during his final weeks. He had flown in secretly, without telling the press, and stayed at a small motel nearby. Every day, he would sit with Jonas, reading books, making dumb jokes, and pretending everything was okay. But at WASN single quotes T. The last day Keanu saw Jonas alive, the boy had held his hand and said something strange. "You'll remember me, even when others don't, because remembering is what makes people real." Keanu had nodded, not knowing what else to say. He hadn't thought about that moment in years. But now, the whisper from the boy in the pizza shop, "He will remember," sent a chill down his spine. The next evening came fast. Keanu arrived early at the pizzeria. The same bell rang above the door. The same kind woman greeted him. But this time, he didn't order anything. He sat at the corner table and waited. At exactly 7:03 p.m., the two boys walked in. No hesitation, no whispering. Just silence. They sat across from him. Keanu leaned forward. "You came." The older boy nodded. "We said we would." Keanu asked, "Do you have names?" The younger one smiled faintly. "I'm Daniel." "He's Lucas." Keanu looked at them gently. "Can you tell me more about the box?" Lucas nodded. "We went back this morning, but it was gone, like someone had taken it. Or maybe," Daniel said slowly, "someone was watching it." Keanu's heart picked up speed. "What do you mean?" Lucas looked around the pizzeria before whispering. There was a man. He was standing across the alley, like he had been there a long time, and when he saw us coming, he left really fast, like he didn't want us to see his face. Keanu leaned back in his chair. What did he look like? Gray coat, tall, limping, a little, and he had something in his hand, a boxer bag, maybe. Keanu's mind raced. A man watching a box with a photo of him inside, a memory from a hospital, a promise to remember. He pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" Daniel asked. "Calling someone who might know more." The next morning, Keanu stood outside the gates of St. Mark's Hospital. He hadn't been here in decades. The walls were the same, the smell of antiseptic and old trees, but the people were new, the nurses younger, the security tighter. He signed in at the front desk. "Hi, I'm here to see if I can look at old visitor logs," he said. The woman behind the desk raised an eyebrow. "Are you family of a patient?" "I was." Keanu replied softly. The woman scanned his face. Recognition dawned. But instead of asking for a selfie or screaming his name, she just nodded. "1 second. I'll get the records supervisor." After 20 minutes, an elderly man with white hair and tired eyes led Keanu to a quiet room in the back. The man's badge read Mr. Gallo. "You're lucky, Mr. Gallo said. "Most of the records from that far back have been digitized and tossed, but a few are still here." Keanu explained what he was looking for, the photo, the box, and Jonas. Gallo listened quietly. Then, without a word, he stood and disappeared into a dusty storage room. He returned 15 minutes later with a cardboard file in his hands. There was a visitor, he said, who used to come after. You stopped visiting Jonas. Keanu looked up. What? A man. He came every Sunday for 13 years, never missed a week. Said he was your friend's cousin. But I never saw any records of that. Did he leave a name, Mr.? Gallo nodded. Michael Reed. Keanu sat back slowly. He remembered that name. Michael Reed had been Jonas's neighbor as a kid, but they'd lost touch after school. What was he doing here all that time? Keanu asked. Visiting Jonas's memorial plaque in the chapel, Mr. Gallo said, and leaving things in the charity box outside. Blankets, food, letters. Keanu stared at him. Letters, yeah, hundreds. We never read them. We just stored them after the box got too full. Do you still have them, Mr. Gallo smiled. You really are the man who remembers. He handed over a sealed box, dusty and marked with the word letters, 1997 to 2010. Keanu took the box in both hands, heart pounding. Thank you, he whispered. As he walked out of street, marks with the box, something deep in his chest tightened, like a knot that had been ignored for too long. He didn't know exactly what was in those letters, but he knew they were meant for him. And maybe for Lucas and Daniel too. Because something about those boys wasn't just random. They hadn't just found a photo. They had found a path back to a part of Keanu's past that was waiting to be opened. The letters sat on the table for almost 2 hours before Keanu touched them. They were inside a box no bigger than a showbox, wrapped in layers of old plastic. Each letter was folded neatly. Some were in envelopes, some not. All were handwritten. Most had only 2 words written on the top, for him. Keanu sat in his living room, the box open in front of him. The night was quiet. His phone was off, and for the first time in years, he felt like the past wasn't behind him. It was sitting in front of him, waiting. He picked up the first letter. The handwriting was shaky, maybe older, maybe tired. Dear Keanu, I don't know if you remember me. My name is Michael. I knew Jonas too, not like you did. I wasn't his best friend, but I watched him grow up. I saw what he went through, and I saw what you did for him in those last weeks. You came when no one else did. And after he passed, I made a promise to myself. If no one else remembered him, I would. For you. For Jonas. For what it meant. Keanu blinked. He read the next one. Every Sunday, I sit by the chapel window and read a story aloud. The nurses probably think I'm crazy, but I pretend Jonas is listening, and I hope, somehow, that maybe you'll feel it too, wherever you are. The third letter. I've started leaving boxes near shelters, food, warmth, water, hope, and always a photo of you and Jonas, because someone out there needs to remember. Someone out there needs a sign. Keanu's hands trembled. He closed his eyes, holding the letter to his chest. This wasn't just about memories anymore. Someone had turned remembering into action, into kindness, into something that moved through time, quietly, patiently, like a stream cutting through rock. And now the boys, Lucas and Daniel, had been touched by that stream. The next evening, Keanu returned to the pizzeria. This time, he wasn't alone. He brought the box with him. Lucas and Daniel were already waiting. They looked cleaner tonight. Maybe they had found a place to rest. Maybe someone had helped them. Or maybe they just felt safer now. Keanu sat down at their table, without a word. He opened the box and showed them the letters. These, he said, were left by the man you saw, the one who used to leave the boxes. Lucas leaned in, surprised. He knew you. Yes, Keanu said quietly. But it's more than that. He knew someone I lost a long time ago, someone we both cared about, and he made a promise to never let him be forgotten. Daniel whispered, but why leave a photo of you? Keanu looked down at the letters. Because sometimes, he said slowly, when we remember someone, we have to carry their story forward. Michael thought I would understand, and he was right. Lucas looked confused. So what does that have to do with us? Keanu paused. He didn't want to scare them, but he had to ask. Double quotes Lucas. Daniel, where are your parents? They looked at each other. Daniel spoke first. Our mom's gone. We don't know where. And our dad, he left before she did. How long have you been on your own? A few months, Lucas said softly. We try to stay together, stay safe. Keanu nodded slowly. His heart ached again. Not from memory this time, from seeing what was right in front of him. You found that box because you were meant to, he said. Not just because you needed food, but because someone out there wanted you to be seen. Lucas frowned. But by who? Keanu thought for a moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out an old Polaroid. It was a photo of him and Jonas, taken on a summer day, both of them laughing, arms around each other's shoulders. This was taken the year Jonas got sick, he said. He used to say that remembering people makes them real again, that we disappear when no one remembers us. Lucas and Daniel stared at the photo. Then Lucas whispered, You think Michael was trying to make Jonas real again? I think, Keanu said. He was trying to make sure none of us forget the people who helped us when we needed it most. He slid the box toward them. You can read them if you want. Every word. Some are about Jonas. Some are about the world. And some are about you. Daniel blinked. About us? He knew you'd find the box one day. Maybe not you exactly, but someone like you. Someone who needed hope. Lucas leaned forward and picked up a letter. The first line made his eyes go wide. To the boys who are cold tonight. I don't know your names, but I know your pain. You are not alone. His hands shook as he read further. The man in the photo remembers more than just a friend. He remembers how it feels to be lost, and he will find you. I believe that. I always have. Lucas looked up at Keanu. Did he really write this before we found it? Yes, Keanu said. And then the three of them sat in silence. The kind of silence that says something big just happened. The kind that changes everything. Later that night, Keanu drove them back to his home. Not forever, just for the night. He showed them the guest room. Gave them clean clothes, food, a hot shower. They didn't ask questions. And Keanu didn't treat them like strangers. They were part of the story now. He stood by the window after they fell asleep, looking out at the city lights. Behind him, the box of letters sat on the table. Michael was gone. That much he was sure of. But the trail he left, the kindness, the hope, the silent promises, was still alive. And now Keanu had two boys who needed someone to walk that trail. With them, someone who remembered. Someone who never stopped caring. Someone who would protect the next chapter of the story. The final deliver. Keanu woke up before the sun rose. He hadn't really slept, only rested, listening to the soft breathing of the two boys. In the guest room, the house felt different now. Not lonely, not quiet in a sad way. It felt like something had shifted, like life had quietly entered again through a door he didn't know was still open. He walked into the kitchen and started making breakfast, toast, eggs, orange juice. He wasn't a chef, but he remembered what it was like to be hungry, not just for food, but for peace, for safety, for someone to simply be kind without asking for anything in return. As the food sizzled, a soft voice came from the hallway. Is that bacon? It was Daniel, barefoot, wrapped in a soft blanket. Keanu smiled. Turkey bacon. I don't eat the regular stuff anymore. Lucas appeared next, rubbing his eyes. We thought it was a dream. He mumbled. Not a dream, Keanu said gently. Just a new chapter. They sat at the table and ate like they hadn't eaten in days. No talking at first. Just warm food, full mouths, and quiet gratitude. After breakfast, Keanu cleared the table and said, I want to show you something. He led them into a small room near the back of the house. It was filled with boxes, notebooks, some movie posters rolled up in corners, a guitar leaning against the wall. But in the middle of it all was a map, a big one, pinned to a corkboard, covered in tiny red dots. What's this? Lucas asked. Keanu stood beside it. These are places where Michael left boxes over the years. Food, water, help. You track them? Daniel asked, amazed. No, Keanu said. Michael sent letters to a small group of people. I was one of them. He never told me who the others were. But I know they're out there, doing what he started. Lucas walked up to the map and pointed at one dot near the city's edge. This was where we found our box. Keanu nodded. He was still leaving them, even after all this time. Daniel whispered, Do you think? He was watching us. I think he was watching everyone who needed help. Keanu replied. But now, he's not here anymore, and someone has to keep going. Lucas looked at him. You, me, and maybe you too. That afternoon, the three of them went to a storage unit Keanu hadn't opened in years. It was quiet and dusty, but it held pieces of the past that were still useful. Inside were boxes of supplies, canned food, blankets, socks, first aid kits, things Keanu had been quietly buying over time, unsure why. Maybe some part of him had always been waiting for this moment. They filled the trunk of Keanu's car with care packages. Lucas and Daniel worked with quiet purpose. No one complained. No one asked how long it would take. They just packed. By evening, they had delivered their first box. They left it in an alley near a rundown motel, not far from the train station. Daniel carefully placed a note inside. You are not alone. Keanu added a photo. Not of himself. Not this time. It was a picture of Jonas, young, laughing, alive. Why him? Lucas asked. Because he started this, Keanu said. He reminded me what really matters. They drove in silence to the next spot, and the next, and the next. They became a team, quiet, fast, invisible, like shadows bringing hope in the dark. A week passed. Then too, Lucas and Daniel started to smile more, sleep better, trust deeper. Keanu started looking into schools, legal guardianship, things he had never thought he'd need to understand, but he wanted to do it right. And just when life began to feel settled again, a letter arrived. No envelope. No stamp. Just a piece of paper slipped through the crack in his front door. He opened it slowly. Dear Keanu, I didn't want to disturb your peace, but I had to say thank you. The boys are where they belong, and you kept your promise, even when you didn't know it was yours to keep. They are more important than you know. They're not just boys, they're the future of what we started. Protect them. Teach them, and when the time is right, tell them everything. One last thing, the man you saw near the alley, he wasn't watching you. He was watching over you. Goodbye, old friend. Michael. Keanu stared at the letter for a long time. His hands trembled slightly, but not from fear. From understanding. Michael hadn't vanished. He had been there all along, guiding, watching, helping from the shadows. And now, the torch had passed. That night, Keanu sat down with Lucas and Daniel. He told them everything. About Jonas. About Michael. About the promises that live even after people are gone. Lucas was quiet, listening hard. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. So he knew about us. Yes, Keanu said, and he believed in you, both of you. Daniel whispered, what do we do now? Keanu reached across the table and placed his hands on theirs. We remember. We help. And we never turn our backs when we see someone struggling. Just like Michael never turned his back on us. Double quotes. Lucas looked down. I'm scared sometimes. Me too. Keanu said gently. But being scared doesn't mean we stop. It means we care. Outside, the city lights glowed. Inside, a new family sat in quiet strength. Not perfect. Not complete. But real. And that was more than enough. Asterisk in name. They never expected. A month had passed. A month of late-night deliveries, warm meals, new routines, and quiet healing. The boys were growing stronger, not just in their bodies, but in their hearts. Lucas laughed more now, sometimes even joked. Daniel had picked up Keanu's guitar and started strumming simple chords. Music filled the house where silence used to live. They had created something like family. But one afternoon, everything changed. Keanu was in his study, reading through documents about guardianship and foster care. He had already hired a lawyer, had meetings set up, and had started thinking long-term. Lucas and Daniel needed stability. They needed to belong, and Keanu, though unsure at first, now wanted more than anything to give them that. The doorbell rang. He wasn't expecting anyone. He opened the door to find a tall woman in her late 40s. Sharp eyes, pressed clothes, a badge clipped to her blazer. Mr. Reeves. Yes, Keanu said. Already uneasy. I'm Agent Sanders, Social Investigations Unit. I need to speak to you. May I come in? He stepped aside, heart pounding. Lucas and Daniel were playing a card game in the living room. When they saw her, their smiles faded. Daniel grabbed Lucas's arm. Is it about us? The woman glanced at them, then looked back at Keanu. "It's okay," he told the boys. "Go to your room for a minute." They obeyed, not because they were scared of Keanu, but because they trusted him. When they were gone, Agent Sanders spoke. "We've been looking for those two boys for over 6 weeks. They were part of a flagged case. Suspected abandonment, possible trafficking risk." Keanu's chest tightened. "They were alone. I took them in. No one else came looking." She nodded. "That's why this is unusual and sensitive. But that's not the full reason I'm here." Keanu frowned. "Then what is?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a manila envelope. This was sent to us anonymously, addressed to Child Protection Services. Inside were 2 things: a photo of you, the boys, and a letter. The letter said, "He has them now. They're safe." Better than we could have ever done. Keanu's jaw clenched. She continued. "There was also a name mentioned, someone called Jonas, and the person who wrote it said, 'The boys are part of what Jonas started.' Do you know what that means?" Keanu slowly sat down. He had never told anyone outside his closest circle about Jonas, about the chapel, about Michael, and now someone had written it in a letter to the government. Who sent it? He asked. No return address, no fingerprints, but based on the writing style and content, we believe it was written by an older man, possibly military background. Very precise. Keanu's voice was low. "Michael." She blinked. "You know who that is?" "Yes," Keanu said. "But he's gone. At least, I think he is." Agent Sanders folded her arms. "So, tell me, what is this about, Mr. Reeves? Why are these boys connected to someone like Jonas? And how did you come to be involved?" Keanu looked at her, then toward the hallway where the boys had disappeared. He made a choice, and he told her everything. Not with drama, not with performance, just truth. He told her about the hospital, the friend he lost, the man who kept his promise, the boxes, the letters, the whisper in the pizza shop, and the trail that led to that one photo, a key that unlocked decades of silent kindness. When he finished, Agent Sanders was silent. Then, quietly, she said, "You understand this sounds like fiction." "I know," Keanu said, "but I believe you," she added, "not because you're famous, but because I've read those letters, and the person who wrote them believed in you more than anything else." She stood up. "There's going to be a hearing," she said. "You'll have to go through legal steps, but if everything checks out, and I believe it will, those boys will stay with you." Keanu nodded. "Thank you." She paused at the door. "There's one more thing." He looked up. She opened her folder and pulled out a small, blurry photo. It had been printed from a surveillance camera. It showed an alley, a tall man in a gray coat, limping, carrying something. Agent Sanders whispered, "We think this was taken 2 days after the boys found the box. Same alley, same time frame. It matches your description of Michael. But here's what's strange. This man has been showing up in security footage for years, always near boxes, never caught, never spoken to." Keanu stared at the photo. The man in the image was turning away from the camera, face hidden, but there was something unmistakable about his stance, something familiar. "Do you think he's still out there?" Keanu asked. Agent Sanders shrugged. "He's either the most invisible person alive, or something else entirely." And then she left. That night, Keanu sat with Lucas and Daniel by the fireplace. He told them what was coming, the court, the questions, the process. They didn't speak at first. Then Lucas said quietly, "We don't want to go anywhere else." Keanu looked at them and said, "You won't, not if I can help it." Daniel asked, "Do you think Michael is watching us?" Keanu stared into the flames. "I think," he said slowly, "some people don't leave when they're gone. I think some promises live longer than the people who made them." Lucas nodded. "Like Jonas." "Yes," Keanu said. "Like Jonas." Double quotes. Daniel leaned against Keanu's side. "Can we keep delivering boxes?" Keanu smiled. "We never stopped." And in that moment, under the soft orange glow of the fire, the past and present sat together, not as pain, not as mystery, but as something rare, something sacred. A story still being written. The promise. Lives on Courtroom was cold, not in temperature, but in the way the walls felt too wide and the people too serious. Keanu sat in the middle of it all, wearing a dark shirt and jeans. No cameras, no fans. Just a few people from child services, a quiet judge, and two boys holding onto his arms like they were afraid someone might try to pull them away. They'd been through interviews, background checks, home visits. Everything was in place. But the final word was in the hands of one person, the judge, an older woman with tired eyes and a soft voice. She looked at the papers in front of her, then back at the boys. Double quotes Lucas. Daniel, you've told us that Mr. Reeves makes you feel safe. They both nodded. She smiled slightly. You've also said you want to stay with him, even after learning what guardianship means, even knowing it will change your lives. Lucas whispered, he's already changed our lives. The judge looked down again. Then she spoke clearly, gently, like a stone being placed in still water. Then I see no reason to delay this decision. Guardianship is granted. Keanu exhaled slowly. Lucas clutched his sleeve tighter. Daniel started crying. Keanu pulled both boys into a hug, not rushed, not hidden. Just real. Outside the courthouse, a few reporters were waiting. Not many. Word had leaked, but Keanu had requested privacy, and most respected it. Still, one young reporter stepped forward. Mr. Reeves, can we ask, what made you take in these boys? Keanu looked down at Lucas and Daniel, then back at the reporter. Because someone once told me, he said quietly, that remembering people makes them real. And these boys reminded me of someone I never wanted to forget. The reporter tried to ask more, but Keanu had already turned away, his hand resting gently on Daniel's shoulder. In the weeks that followed, the house became a home, not just for the boys, but for Keanu to. They cooked together, laughed, built things, painted a wall in the living room with handprints and their favorite quotes. And every Friday night, they packed boxes. Still anonymous, still quiet, still placed in corners of the city where no one else was looking. Sometimes they left letters. Sometimes just a single word written in marker. Remember. The boys each carried their own pain, their own stories. But now they had something else to. A mission. One rainy evening, Daniel ran into the house holding something small and soaked. Keanu, he shouted. It was in the mailbox. It was a package. No return address. Inside was a simple notebook. Old, worn, but every page was filled. Letters. Written in Michael's hand, each addressed to someone different. To the mother who lost everything, to the child who ran away, to the man who can't forgive himself, to the world that forgot how to careen at the end. One letter that made Keanu freeze. To the ones who kept going. Opened it. You did it. I always knew you would. Not because you're strong, not because you're famous, but because you remember. And remembering is the greatest kind of love. They are not alone now, neither are you. This world is dark, but the lights you leave behind will guide others home. Keep going, keep delivering, keep loving quietly. And never forget, the promise was never mine, it was always yours. Keanu handed the notebook to Lucas and Daniel. And for a long time, none of them spoke. Because they didn't need to. They understood. Michael was gone. But the story, their story, would go on. 1 year later, a new box appeared on the streets of a city far away. Different country, different faces. But inside the box were food, water, blankets, and a letter. This one was signed by 3 names. Keanu, Lucas, and Daniel. The note read, "You are not forgotten. You are not broken. And you are not alone." From that day forward, they were no longer just survivors. They were keepers of a legacy. Silent heroes in the shadows, delivering more than just food, delivering hope. Delivering memory, delivering the quiet kind of love that saves lives, one whisper, one box, one heart at a time.